live. Welcome back, everybody, to the PEO Speedwagon podcast. As always, I'm Rick Johnson, joined by Ryan Shapiro here, and we're happy to have you for episode 3 of season 3. And you may notice that we are in a new space here with the sign up as well, and a tree. Although it is not a Christmas tree, it is a lovely plant that we have, and we're rocking and rolling. We're in a new space, Ryan. So, what do you think?
Yeah, it's nice. It's cozy. It's dark. Kind of feels right.
Yeah. And of course, some folks are noticing too, we have some new cameras as well. So got some new setups and really just a bit of an upgrade going into season 3. And so it's what we've been wanting to do for a minute. And we think you guys deserve the upgrade in quality. And so thanks for tuning in again, guys, and, following the journey as we get this thing, better and better every episode and every season. And so for this episode, I think, Ryan and I are going to talk a little bit about some of our relationships with PEOs and how we refresh those relationships with them every year, and really just talk a little bit about the side of PEOMG and our ability to connect the right small, medium-sized businesses to the correct PEO, and really just dive in a bit to the PEOs that we choose to work with and we believe are really best in class. And so, Ryan?
Yeah, it's an important time of the year. At the beginning of the year, everybody is reevaluating everything and looking at what you do and how that worked and the things that didn't work and the things you need to know to do things better. And so one of the things that was very intentional here at the top of the year was getting with each one of our partners to get a deeper understanding, not only of their capabilities, but what is an ideal customer for them, right? So we presently in 2024, or last year, 2024, our PEO universe was 16 PEOs. We're actively looking at expanding that and augmenting that in a way to provide a more dynamic range of options. But in order to do that, we have to know where they fit.
Yeah.
And so those conversations have been fun. They've been great. We learn new things. We dispel some myths or thoughts that we did have that perhaps could have misaligned a customer had we gone that way. And so it's been really great, and we've had tremendous partnership, and it feels like we're doing them every day. So at the top of the year too, we're getting a big download on content and insights that are really powerful to be able to put into our evaluation model for our clients.
One really big unlock for me was how Ryan initially explained how we were going to go about choosing which PEOs we work with. And it was to kind of visualize it as this like a spider graph almost, where you have a variety of different categories, maybe industries. And then you can kind of see that they all have their own individual spaces in that spider graph. And then, of course, a client comes along and we figure out where they also fall on those same metrics in a lot of ways and look at, what PEOs then they're closest to and then are considered and would be the best fit. There's obviously a lot of variables that go in both on the PEO side and on the client side, and we have a lot to learn about them to make that effective recommendation and choose the best one. But that really was helpful for me to ultimately visualize how we have this, like diversity in the different PEOs we have, so that we can really have a wide array of clients and industries that we can help and really be effective with. So that was really helpful for you when you explained it to me.
Yeah. And it was a lot more effective than the original strategy, which was like throwing a dart at a dartboard. Yeah. So, we've said it. We say it all the time. It's probably on other social posts. A PEO is an incredibly powerful solution that will help a business drive forward further and faster than it can on its own, providing support not only to that entrepreneur and leadership team, but delivering tools and resources to the employees that enhance employee engagement and make that whole organization just run more effectively. As powerful as that can be, however, getting with the wrong one, even under the auspice of this feels right, can be incredibly disruptive to a company's growth because you lose time, you lose energy that you put into that relationship, you lose the faith of your people to make decisions that are important to them about employee benefits packages, 401k, just kind of how they interface with their employer on the HR payroll side of things. And the only way you can do that effectively is to be able to run the traps on every scenario, ask a million questions along the way. And a business owner, business leader does not have time for that. They have things they have to do that take a really important priority. Not that this isn't an important decision, but they don't need to be an expert in this because a PEO broker, take it away from PEOMG, like can really help them understand that and make them feel good and confident about it, and let them get back to what they love doing. Whatever that is in their respective organization, this is an entrepreneurial solution that helps leaders and entrepreneurs get back to doing what they love. And there's nothing more important than that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, you think about it, there are some reviews out there of folks that got with a PEO that are negative reviews, and they are true because there was misalignment with the one that they got to. I find often that, like, you speak with someone in a PEO, they're a bit forced to say like this, it's always a great solution because they have one thing that they're offering, and that's fair. But from our perspective, we get to actually kind of come out and say, hey, we know that there can be misalignment and it can have a really big negative effect. So if you're ever out there and you're looking around at PEOs and you do see some of those feedbacks and those reviews out there, like there's certainly can be, credit to those if it is a misalignment. And
absolutely,
and that's obviously why we're here, is that it's a difficult process to go through to try to sort through all the different varieties of PEOs out there.
Not to mention the fact that at the end of that comment, whatever's tagged or a review or Better Business Bureau, like, that is they've gotten to a point where they're frustrated enough to do that, which most people won't do.
Mm-hmm.
But what that doesn't really represent is all the work and pain and struggling that went before that. Because business people who've started a business, SMB, which PEOs are designed for, like there is a high risk tolerance and there's a high tolerance for pain.
Yeah.
To get to whatever you've established as your goal for your organization, what you want your employees to feel like. And so they've gone, in order to write that comment, they have gone through some significant turmoil and frustration in order to do that, because they just don't normally have the time or space to go provide that feedback. And so it's reflective of the entire relationship, but it speaks nothing to the journey that organization had to go through. And in the parallel universe in which they could have got with the right one, that's the real cost, the opportunity cost between what it was like and how painful it was and how great it could have been had you got with PEO X versus PEO Z. Mm-hmm. And how far would your business be and how differently would you feel, and stress and frustration and cash that's been either made higher or lost. Like I know PEOs have this bad habit of like trying to focus on like how we save you money and everything else. Like,
sure,
that's where a entrepreneur can really attach to solutions. Like, you're going to make my life better. You're going to get me back to doing what I love. There is, like I said, there's no price that can be put on that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, maybe we'll talk a little bit about kind of what we did to look at the PEOs that we work with. Mm-hmm. And then, one thing that we how we organized them was we just looked at who in general we found ourselves directing clients to more mm-hmm. through the year, and then who like we didn't send to as many clients to. Mm-hmm. And we just kind of viewed them from that perspective to say, is there a knowledge gap for us in any of these areas? Mm-hmm. And that's really what kind of this evaluation, this update is, that when we go and we meet with PEOs to mm-hmm. gather more information is all about, is making sure that, we have all of the information we need to understand the PEOs that we work with. And if they're coming out with anything new that might change our approach to recommendations, mm-hmm. That we're aware of it. And so I know we did that, just a day or two ago. And so maybe talk a little bit about that approach.
Yeah, it's coming in with our model, and I think everybody should be, is an unbiased model to getting to that right PEO for a small business if you're making those recommendations and you're connecting those dots for them. And so we bring that unbiased into that. If we only sent 15 customers to a PEO last year, and we'd like to find kind of a more of a balance point of 50 to mm-hmm. a particular PEO, how do we remove the bias to understand why we did that? And so we came in very open, wanting to learn, understanding, and also zeroing in on the things we don't know. Because we see these things, the HR technology, the benefits strategy, and kind of the plan options, master plans alike, the tech, the APIs, like we see them all. And it's a little old hat to us. Like we know them all. Mm-hmm. But we also have to remember to put ourselves in the shoes of that business owner, because I think that's where some of the misalignment does start. Yeah. If they are sitting on QuickBooks or they're sitting on some version of a fairly simple payroll solution, and then they get in a tech demo with the carrot being dangled of, we're also going to save you money, we're going to get you better benefits, mm-hmm. and then you've got this really dynamic looking technology, and they get swallowed up in it.
Yeah,
they don't ask the questions because, one, they don't know, Or two, it just looks so great that it looks like it can do everything.
Yeah, they don't have a comparison in mind besides the original tool they've been using.
Right. And so we know all those things. And so it's important to put those aside. Here's what we've seen customers suffer by. Here's where we've seen customers thrive by. Let's just eliminate that. Let's start fresh. Like, I don't know anything about PEO, but I have some baseline knowledge as to human capital, and help me understand. And through doing that, we definitely learned a lot. We definitely learned a lot more things through this process. So I feel a lot more informed heading into 2025 that as our customers come to us, we're going to have a better direction model for them as it relates to our recommendations.
Yeah. And, as I'm thinking about it as well, this is certainly something we do regularly on our own is, stay updated on the news, stay updated with talking with our partners about things they're doing and changes they're making. But what we're genuinely doing now is giving them an extended amount of time to let us know and say anything that they have come out with or are planning to come out with that will help us for the upcoming year.
Yep.
So really just giving them that space to say, hey, the floor is yours. It's not questions where we maybe think they can do something and we're not quite sure and we want to verify. It's, hey, this is all you. You guys go for it. We want to open up and make sure, also what we have is correct on you already. And so it's been great for me because, as I'm learning this industry, to get those refreshers from them directly of all the things they're capable of, and then kind of go from one to the other to the other. And in my mind, I can kind of compare and see from this eagle's eye view of everybody's PEO. It just really makes me feel like I get this view of the industry that is so unique, where it's no longer like I was working at a PEO and then worked at another one, like so many people do in the industry. It's like I get to work at all of them, all 16, for just a little bit to gather all that information. And of course, download from you as well, which from your time in the industry.
Right. But I've seen that as a significant progression, not only for your development, but other people in the organization, because you are getting, even as unbiased as I am and try to remain, you are still getting it filtered through me. And so, on this show, you've gotten to talk to a host of different really wonderful PEO leaders, PEO people who buy PEOs, people who have nothing to do with PEOs. And you just get different perspectives, like Pete last week on the leadership. Yeah. So it makes you want for a better leader after you talk with Pete. And that's powerful, because that is when a PEO sales rep is sitting down with a business owner or a team that's evaluating their particular PEO, there is all the blocking and tackling. It's being able to talk about pay cycles and deductions and how those are handled, and integration over to 401k, and how does the record keeper structure work, GL, just like all the, like I said, blocking, tackling, X's and O's that you have to know. The quicker you can either understand those at a very high level, like move into that situational leadership model that Pete was talking about, and be really competent and confident about those things, then it allows you to go into the stuff that really matters, which is just strategy and how you think about people and how you design your culture for the success that you want and for how you want your people to feel. And so having access not only to the PEOs for some of that stuff, but also to other individuals who might fall outside the firewalls of a particular PEO helps your customer. Oh, yeah. Because you are then a human capital strategist. You are then really helping that person connect the dots, because a PEO is just designed to get you there. It's not the fix. It's a vehicle for getting to your optimal environment.
Yeah. It's so interesting because like the typical path too for everybody in the industry is like, they come in, they work at a PEO, they maybe go to another one. And at some point there might even be a broker that they work for, but usually it seems to be later in their career. You see someone go to the broker and that role and get that perspective of the PEO industry. I mean, if I had to recommend a way people are doing it, it's like, they don't very often find themselves at a PEO broker initially to learn the high level viewpoint. And then they get to drill down into the specific PEOs. And part of it is that we want this podcast to be that a little bit for everybody, so that that method of sort of having that view of the whole industry from how we perceive it can really be shown in here in our content, so that everybody knows what the suite of options are available out there is. And it might not just be from the perspective of the PEO that you work at or that you have for your organization.
Yeah. I mean, there's no right way. It would be incredibly hard to go as broad as the funnel is on understanding PEOs out of the broker model.
Of course.
And a lot of the PEOs have really tremendous training models to understand this, because until you happen to get a message from like a LinkedIn message from a recruiter, or you happen to see it on a job board.
Yeah.
No, kid coming out of college up to like even, working knows anything about this. Like the only way you may know is if you work for a small business and they happen to be on a PEO. But even then, as an employee, not a business owner, you don't really understand everything about it. So the fact that then the PEOs have really invested tremendously, the instructional design, the strategy of how to educate someone is a really wonderful way to learn this. You're not getting that experience, unfortunately. No, but and we're thankful for
well,
that.
You're telling me that a college kid doesn't care a lot about his benefits right out of school?
Just
He's
doesn't think
diving
about
into learning the PEO.
Right. Yes, payroll.
Well, he's like, I should understand this company.
This is really exciting. And so, that's a great opportunity for people to go learn it, pick one, become passionate about it, and have that passion transform not into a bias of your particular PEO, but for small business owners.
Yeah.
Convert that bias, take that passion, and make it something meaningful to help a small business owner, because that's what this is all about. And I know I've said this, and I know you've, unfortunately, but it just rings so important. Entrepreneurs take a tremendous risk to start a business or a nonprofit organization that has a cause that's really important to them. And they put everything on the line in order to do that a lot of times. And, they deserve support.
Yeah, they certainly do. I actually had a really great conversation with my buddy Scott the other day on calculated risk. Shout out to you, Scott. Well, let me ask you this, Ryan. So what were some of the key takeaways that you had from the evaluations that we did? Like, what are things that you felt like, not about individual PEOs, but in general, what were areas that we learned more and that we're optimistic to going into 2025 knowing about PEOs?
And I appreciate you diverting so I don't get choked up on camera. But there is meaningful growth in the HR technology to bring more things to bear, right? So that we've sat a long window of time where it was all or nothing, right? It was you bought your PEO, you got everything, and I'm seeing more and more for cost, small cost modifications, the access to certain resources that they need. I think that is really powerful. It gives people choice. It makes them feel a greater reward for what they ultimately do choose, because they don't feel like they are spending money on things they're not actually using. And that's a common tactic amongst the PEOs. When one PEO finds a current PEO customer and say, well, you're not really using that, come over to ours.
Yeah.
And so I see more progression even with the bigs to do that, which they've been historically very devout to the concept, like take all or nothing, right?
Yeah.
And you'll use it over time. You'll use it in the life cycle of your business, which can be true, but not for everybody. And so I've seen that happen. I think that's really powerful. I see the transition to trying to be more supportive of remote work models and understanding that their price point of an outsourced HR model for an organization that had a classically trained HR person in their offices.
Yeah.
Now they don't have that anymore, right? 60, 70, 100% of their workforce is remote. And so that HR person, their impact may be muted to a degree. And so what we're going to deliver in isn't just like a fix-all for that. And so like we need to price more accordingly, be more right-sized in terms of that. And just the awareness of that, because PEOs for a while have thought that, we know what we're doing, you don't, Mr. or Mrs. business owner.
Yeah.
So like, just listen to us. We price this thing right. What have you? This is how you should do it. This is what HR, human capital, should look like. And I think I'm seeing this across the board coming around to more malleable structures to give that customer what they really need and show them the value over time. I see that for certain. It's, hey, we can set these things up and add these things later. We don't have to make this a harder decision or harder lift for you. And they're better at that as opposed to just lifting their PEPM or percentage of payroll to cover the cost.
Interesting. Do you think, so here's what I'm thinking of when I hear that, is the last like 10 years or so, and especially through like the COVID periods, we noticed that it was more of an employee market for, looking for jobs. It was more favoring employees. They were hiring for quite a bit. It's sort of coming back now for sure. But during that time, employers have to have a great culture and be extremely, an employer of choice, as you say. Do you feel like that then was the PEOs having to respond to their small businesses they work with to be able to do that more? Because if they're saying, hey, this is how HR is, they can't be flexible to that unique culture that's attracting talent. Do you think it comes out of that a little bit, or?
A little bit. I mean, I think that there was an opinion that, hey, we are HR experts. We are PEO X, Y, or Z. We know what an effective HR strategy looks like. You, as a small business who just told us at 15 employees, like, we don't really have HR.
Yeah, you are asking for help.
You're asking for help, and you should listen to us.
Yeah.
And so that worked for a long time, and some PEOs are continuing that approach that we've seen as we've talked about this revisioning or kind of education process for at the end of the year. They're not altering that philosophy, but just more are, and they're saying, okay, now we know what you want to accomplish. Let's build you a platform to get there. So more modular in that respect. They're not wrong, though. I mean, we are over here. Here's our expertise. You don't have it. Let's connect the dots. And I think that bridge of something that is more in the middle is what's helping more customers move into that. Because while things have shifted from the job market perspective, one thing that has not is every business owner wants to hire the absolute best person for their open position.
Yeah.
So what they're not doing, even as maybe the scales have tipped back over to an employer advantage as it relates to jobs, they haven't dropped their expectation, at least none that we talk to, about what they want that person to look like. They want A players. They want people who are committed. They want people who are talented, that are open and willing to learn. And those people come with a price tag. And that price tag is not just gross wages, but it's also all the things that come along through PEO, benefits, 401k, and just a really great place to work.
Yeah, the growth that they want in the role and development. Yeah.
And so that is not one thing. That's something that has not shifted in any way. Frankly, it shifted more to it being on the employer to be that employer of choice.
Yeah.
And you're going to have to compete. And a PEO or a human capital strategy is a best way to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. Well, we did our evaluations and we'll continue to keep doing them. I think we'll probably do it for another week or so as we continue to meet with more PEOs and kind of build our database of information that we have on all of them that informs our recommendations.
Yeah, we got like 6 or 7 here over the next.
And one today.
And one today.
Yeah,
one today. Right after this.
So an exciting time. As I said, guys, new studio. Thanks so much for tuning in. Great episode.
It's real.
We will. It is real. Yes, it's a real plant behind us. But as always, Wagoneers, this was episode 3, and we always appreciate you guys tuning in. So subscribe, listen for more, and we will talk to you guys next time.